And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. I last week reviewed Starcadia Quest, really liked it, but I wanted to make a quick video here that showed you some of the major differences between Starcadia Quest and Arcadia Quest. It's possible you have Arcadia Quest and you're wondering, is this Arcadia Quest in space? Well, in short, yes and sort of no. Starcadia Quest really feels like a 1.5 upgrade of Arcadia Quest, and yes, in space. In fact, they could have called it Arcadia Quest in space. But there are some significant differences, so I want to show you some of the significant differences, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you my overall thoughts. Okay, the box sizes are pretty much the same here. You can see there's kind of a starker look to the Starcadia Quest, but it's the same kind of artwork, same designers did each. Let's go inside and take a look. First, we have miniatures. Miniatures are fine in both games. I just want to point out that in the Arcadia Quest, you have your heroes, and then you have your bad guys, and here you have your heroes and bad guys. Much easier to see the blue bad guys than it is to see the gray and the gray. Not a huge difference, and I think when it comes to painting, I don't know much about it. Maybe the gray one's easier to paint on top of. But other than that, miniatures for both games, I would say, are both good. This is something I didn't even think about until I did this comparison, but there's no death curses in Starcadia Quest. And in Arcadia Quest, if you know, when you die, you come back with these death curses. And like this one here, occupies a card slot, no other effect. And you know, you can get rid of these curses. They weren't permanent, but they were a bit annoying. And honestly, that's one annoyance I don't care if it's in the game at all. They can get rid of this, and I don't notice it. I'm glad for this change. The big change, the one that everyone will notice right away, is the fact that there are 3 heroes in Arcadia Quest and 2 in Starcadia Quest. When I first heard about this, I was not as thrilled with the idea. I wondered, you know, why go down to 2 heroes? But after playing, I realized that in Arcadia Quest, I often would just use 2 of the heroes anyway. Instead of using 3, I was running 2 of them around more than the third one or what have you. This worked really well. Another difference is they have cards, now there are tiles. Now I feel like the tiles might be not as easy to use, or they don't look as cool maybe as a card does, but the fact of the matter is when you exhaust a tile, you just flip them over to the other side and it shows it's exhausted. In Arcadia Quest, you put a token on top of them, and while the token on top of the cards worked okay, it was easy to miss, and it's a little bit more fiddly to remove all the tokens. Here, you just flip them over and it's exhausted or not. So I like that a lot. So even though I thought I wouldn't like the 2 heroes, I found that it worked really well. I like the tiles and how they flip better than the cards. And I like in between battles, rather than buying the cards for money, which, you know, they had different costs and stuff and added some to the game, I like that you just draft it between a whole pile of tiles that would come out. Now, I will say this. I feel like currently there's still more diversity. I felt like some of the weapons from Arcadia Quest might have had a cooler effect to them, but it's not enough to make me really care that much. I'm still going to give the nod to Starcadia. When we look at the card design of the 2 games, it's about the same, right? You have the defense and the health. They just made it bigger here, and they just made the text bigger, and they gave it, you know, they moved where the name was. But other than that, these look very similar. So again, this main thing, going down to 2 characters, I was really opposed to that, but in practice, found it worked really well. When it comes to the bad guys, in Arcadia Quest, Eric Lang once told me that these were just walking bags of loot. That is not the case in our Starcadia Quest. The fact that you're flipping these over and it will tell you what kind of enemy to use, and in fact, just that whole idea of moving them around and shooting and stuff, there's a way stronger chance that you will get killed by these guys than these. These guys, if one of, you know, they're there, but they were never that scary. Maybe the big bad bosses were a little scarier than most, But these guys are much more dangerous, and that's going to change how you feel about the games. I like the Starcadia Quest ones because the monsters are now mean something as they run around. However, if you're more focused on the PvP, I think the PvP is slightly stronger in Arcadia Quest. I mean, it's technically stronger here because you're using the monsters to shoot your opponents and such and weaken them up for your shots. But there's more monster combat in Starcadia Quest than there is in Arcadia Quest. So the bad guys are done very differently. In Arcadia Quest, your bad guys will level up depending on what level you are. So you can see this Orc Captain here, 4 hit points, 6 overkill, attacks with 4 dice and rerolls 2, as opposed to the much weaker one that you fight on level 1. Here they're always the same. There's just the number of creatures that come out will be based on the level. Like this full slate here will likely not be in anything but the final level. And all monsters have the same hit points here. The difference is their attack and defense is different on each one. But this board makes it very clear. It shows you how many victory points you get for getting them, which you get victory points for killing these, you get gold for killing these. Getting the victory points is much more satisfying than the gold I found. And this system here, which works really well with the quests, allowing there to be random guys to show up. So if I buy a booster pack for this game and I get, for example, some Thorn Troopers, and I want to use Thorn Troopers, I can use them in Mission 1 of the base game because it allows for there to be a random trooper in the game. That does not the case for the other ones. If you get special monsters for Arcadia Quest, you have to use them in the set that they come with. This is another huge change between the games. You have such static setups, like I said. This would show you in Arcadia Quest, here's how the board's set up. Here's where you put all the monsters. Here's how you put the doors down and all this stuff. There's where players start. And it's going to be the same way every time you play this. While in Starcadia Quest, you have some scenario cards. They'll show you this, but these boards are random, so the setup's going to be slightly different each time. It gives some rules for the game. It shows what monsters. Like I said, there's a random one that can be chosen here. Then it shows some more setups, in this case, for how this one works. And then there are quests, and these quests are also in the original one, but now they're just tied to the scenario. When I play a scenario, I need these cards and that's it. I don't need to pull out a big book like I am here and setting everything up. And I found that this works, right? But I'm going to have a hard time going back to this after doing the Starcadia Quest one because I think it's that much better. Spawning the bad guys. In the original game, you would be adding bad guys to this spot as they died, and then once it filled up, you'd roll dice and then they would show up in areas on the board depending on what you rolled. And for Starcadia Quest, you're just going to be spawning them, and you'll choose when it shows you, hey, spawn this kind of creature, and I just find a spot on the board. On this particular board, there's a red spot right there. That's where you spawn. Really simple. And there's spawn spots all over the place. And then if you don't need to spawn someone, you just move and attack with them. So the way the monsters goes, again, is much more dynamic here. And honestly, this here, a little fiddly. So I've really thought about this one for a while as to which I like better, because I know I tend to lean towards the shiny new things. But even taking that bias into account, and I'll be fair, I do have a slight bias, I think, for space over fantasy, although that can switch any given day. I still like Starcadia Quest better. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Most of the changes that they made have been good. Like I said, the 2 heroes instead of 3, I thought I wouldn't like that, but I ended up finding it to be very enjoyable. There's a couple really key things, though, that make me really like it. My favorite change is the possibility for having random monsters show up in a mission. You pick which monster you're going to use, which allows you to get any of these monsters in play. So they make a pack with a new monster. I can get that monster knowing it's going to go in. And the way the scenarios are done in Starcadia Quest is vastly superior to Arcadia Quest. By far, that single change there, the way quests are done, the way each mission, each episode is set up is much better in Starcadia Quest. Starcadia Quest has 4 missions instead of 5 like Arcadia Quest does. That may seem like a small change, but it's actually pretty good because 4 is about the length you want one of these to go. The branching path in Starcadia Quest is much simpler. You go from 1 to 2A and 2B. From 2A, you sometimes have a branching path, and then you go to the final mission every time. In Arcadia Quest, you would go do one of the outside missions and one of the inside. A little bit more confusing. I will say I think Arcadia Quest gave slight better benefits to someone who whooped up on a mission as opposed to Starcadia Quest. But at the end of the day, I don't mind. And the keeping of victory points in Starcadia Quest, you get victory points for this, for that, for this, is a little bit better than the way it was done in Arcadia Quest. And I think Starcadia Quest pushes, even though I said PvP might be slightly better in Arcadia Quest because there's less monsters, Starcadia Quest gives you more incentives. Hey, you're the first person to take out an opponent, then you get a special piece of equipment. I like that. And I like the way the equipment works. I like the monsters. I think they're silly and fun in Starcadia Quest. Now, there is a PvP expansion that allows you to play these guys against each other. So I have not played that yet. That looks interesting. And I don't think Starcadia Quest is strong enough that I'll say I'm getting rid of Arcadia Quest. But I do have to say, even though I liked Arcadia Quest, oh, I should have mentioned too, not a big deal, but Arcadia Quest has a 3x3 board and Starcadia Quest has a 4x4 board. That's not a huge difference, but it does allow you to have more stuff than this one does. Anyway, even though I think Starcadia Quest is better than Arcadia Quest, I want to keep them both. I think they're both fun, but like I said, it's hard to go back to this. I'm like, oh, we're locked into this very specific event. Some of the freedoms that Starcadia Quest gives you, you're like, oh, I kind of like this. I kind of like these fluid missions and how every mission's going to feel very differently. I think that Starcadia Quest is slightly longer because they have some more King of the Hill objectives where get this and you grab it and then you run back to your thing. Someone grabs it, runs back over here. So there's a little bit more of that going on. And you have to remember all the time to turn over that event card. But that little bit extra fiddliness still is much less, I think, than the fiddliness between missions. In Arcadia Quest, how much money do you have? Are you going to spend money on buying stuff? If that, you can only keep a little bit of the money for the next round. And then there's these death curses. Good riddance to bad rubbish with death curses, I say. I am not sad to see them go. So overall, that's my thoughts. Maybe you like one better than the other. The comments below tell people, Starcadia better than Arcadia? I think if you have Arcadia Quest, this is a nice upgrade, especially if you like the space theme. If you don't care about the space theme, this game does not make this one worse. Arcadia Quest is still super fun. And I think Arcadia Quest Pets is better than Starcadia Quest Build a Robot. And there's more stuff for Arcadia Quest by far. You can go fight dragons for crying out loud. So there's a bigger backlog of stuff, although that may happen for Starcadia Quest. But gameplay and streamlined, to be fair, it's the same designers, and they were able to look at things here and make them better here. But for me, if I pick one, and I'm picking Starcadia Quest.